Okay, I think 3 years after I talk about the Blade movies, I talk about Blade the series. Yeah. And I'm kind of regretting that I put off watching this for so long, even though I've only owned this DVD for a few months now, because that was actually a pretty nice ride, and in many ways, not all, but many ways, is superior to the films with Wesley Snipes, because here's the thing. This world that the TV show takes place in feels a lot more, not realistic, but tangible. You really feel like this is Earth with vampire societies, existing in it. Because you get some mentions of ordinary people's lives in here. You learn about structures to the vampire society thing, how they've been around for a while. And because we actually have more time, to hear from vampire characters, they feel a lot more human, and it goes to show that many vampires in here, they aren't totally happy with what they've got, but probably they, stick with it because they're either afraid of their comrades, afraid of death. You get the idea, I think, yeah. And also, like, the conflicts between characters and the trust issue, because we're able to spend more time with it, it again feels more tangible, that kind of thing. Just, I can envision a lot of these things happening. And also, this guy who plays Blade, I forget his name. I'm not going to say that he's better than Wesley Snipes, but you could tell that he plays Blade differently, because Blade obviously is half vampire, half human. Well, Wesley Snipes, he definitely seems to go with the idea that he's a hybrid and focuses more on the vampire bit. This guy definitely will say that he's half human. Now, I know what you're thinking. That doesn't really matter, just like it doesn't matter if you say half empty or half full. Even though, I think I'll traditionally say half full, even though my personality, you would think that I would say half empty. Well, yeah. Isn't too much of a difference, but you could tell that he plays it differently, and for what this TV show, is asking for, he does it pretty well. Now, that's not to take away from Wesley Snipes, but you definitely get the idea that he does it differently, is a lot more disconnected from humans, even though it's not exactly the same as the Punisher, or more specifically Thomas Jane Punisher, I think is what I'm thinking of. And I don't know which one that he imitates better. You guys can probably figure that out. And also, I like how they were able to put in a fair amount of humor, and I was real impressed with how well just everything was done in here. This show felt dark in some instances, humorous like I said in some others. The action scenes were actually pretty good. No like cheapness done to really any of them, unlike the Birds of Prey TV show where you can tell they just shot the action scenes and then sped it up to like twice as much. Really? Come on, yeah. And also, Jill Wagner's character, I really enjoyed the story arc that her character went through, because she's cocky at the beginning, but at the same time pretty smart, gets herself into a real bad situation, struggles with it for a while, then has to decide how she wants to play it off. And the thing was, even though she is trying to bring down the vampires, you can tell as the series goes along that she actually does begin to sympathize with the vampires a little bit more, because I know that this sounds bad because I've forgotten the characters' names, but you should be able to figure out who I'm talking about. When she's talking to the main vampire, Victor, maybe? About, issues that all the vampires that we end up seeing in here have, she actually does seem to agree with him on a couple of things. And then the blonde Chase, even though those two were constantly bitching at each other, I got the feeling that there was actually a bit of a bond that formed between them over the course of this season, even though obviously it gets broken at the end of of it, and I was also kind of surprised at, spoiler alert, at the end of this, that it turns out Jill actually didn't kill her because, they show the blood stain on the floor, but that Chase, got away. That would have been real interesting to see what would have happened in future seasons of this show. Yeah, just... And then there was also other human characters that they had in here, because, like, Blade's assistant, because even though he, kind of is the wisecracking guy that was kind of in Blade 2, you get the idea that this guy at least wouldn't, try and pull a fast one on Blade, because when the guy in Blade 2 pulled a fast one on Blade, it wasn't too surprising. But had this guy pulled a fast one on Blade, I would have been really surprised. And I like how he actually got involved with the action, quite a bit. Nice. And then just, there was that cop guy that, that might have been two cop people that, like, occurred as the series went on. I'll admit, it took me a while to, figure out the place, and, like, I wasn't paying the greatest amount of attention while I was watching this show because I was doing other stuff, like archiving various fan fictions while I had the show on, but what they actually ended up doing with those story arcs, I definitely think that was a good idea. It makes you have the sympathy for another person who had the vampire bits, taken away from them. And, yeah, so I think that summarizes my thoughts on most of this show, so going into the things that I didn't like so much, and like how the series ended. Well, here's the thing. When I was doing research about this show, they tried to market it as like a sequel to Blade Trinity. This isn't a sequel to Blade Trinity because there was no mention of, what do they call themselves, Night Stalkers, Ryan Reynolds' group in Blade Trinity. There might have been like one mention of them, but that wasn't discussed. And also, there was, like, a serum that was designed to be able to affect vampires, I think, and make them human or something like that. No mention. And also, the origin for Blade is different. Now, I don't really mind that they changed it, but if you're going to market it as following Blade Trinity and then put up tons of continuity errors... What? Yeah, this is not a sequel to Blade Trinity. This is a different universe. Okay? Seriously. It's just craziness. Okay. And, I definitely could poke at a couple of issues, with constantly rethinking the trust bit, even though it's more justified here than, like, the other movies, because in the other movies, it's rushed, but odds are it probably will work out eventually. Here, you never knew when it was, ooh, is it too much now, that kind of a thing, but I don't know, even though I do like watching, ordinary interactions, they're all ordinary interactions, that just make me go, that kind of a thing. And then also, how the show ended. Now, when I made the last DVD and Blu-ray video, I said that this didn't appear to end on a cliffhanger. It does end on a cliffhanger, although, thankfully, the setup for it really only occurs in, like, literally the last minute of the show, because had they not done that last little scene with Jill and Victor, I think his name is, at... spoiler alert, Blade's old location, had they cut that scene out, the show would have ended on a fine note right there. But yeah, adding in that last minute, that kind of hurt the show, because I was seriously thinking that even though this show easily had 2 more seasons to it, maybe even a 3rd one, that, if that last little bit hadn't been included, we would have been fine with the product that we got and say that it actually ended at a nice bit, even though obviously we don't know what happened with Chase, but I'm glad that they didn't kill her off, because that added a level of complexity for future seasons that was interesting, but Apparently Spike had to cut something and they chose this, which was real unfortunate. Yeah, because they had quite a lot going here. This was a great product. A one-season wonder that suddenly goes nowhere, like with Side Beer. We had arguably Birds of Prey and many others that I'm sure you can come up with. I've never seen Firefly, so don't argue that. I should, though. Right. Well, I think that finishes this vid up. Toodaloo.